Sister McKinney?
Yes.
Okay, cool. It's an honor to have you on, the Honorable Sister Cynthia McKinney, a true freedom fighter, former congresswoman, and a dedicated human rights activist, and so much more. How you doing tonight?
Well, we're in the midst of a real tragedy as it unfolds to our south. There were so many people who had so much hope for not only Venezuela, but Latin America and, of course, the right of self-determination and human rights, respect for human rights all throughout the Western Hemisphere. And I've been in places all over the world where all one has to do is mention the name of the country, Venezuela, and the audience has erupted in cheers, and they have established their solidarity with so many people's movements and people's organizations that what happened in Venezuela was very much what we would call people power. And the lesson from even in 2002 when the U.S.-backed forces kidnapped the Chavez and tried to institute a coup, that the people just took to the streets and said, no, we want our democracy, and we're not going to let you steal it. And they saved his life. They saved their country, their government, the right of self-determination. And I'm sure that the Venezuelan people are once again going to rise to the occasion and not allow dissension and, sort of chaos to sweep the country as has happened in the other countries where we've had rulers toppled in, like, the Arab Spring, or what they call the Arab Spring, that there will be a peaceful, orderly transition that will preserve the gains for the people of the Bolivarian Revolution.
Do you feel like there's a concern about, people looking into Yasser Arafat, his questionable demise? Do you think there's a concern about the way that Hugo Chavez died? I know they kicked out the military attaché or diplomats from America that kicked him out the country over concerns about maybe foul play in the death of Hugo Chavez? Or you think there's whatever?
Well, Chavez himself in 2009 said that there was an assassination attempt against him, and we know that there was definitely the coup, and all of that is recorded by the Irish journalist who just happened to be in Venezuela at the time in the documentary The Revolution Will Not Be Televised. So I would advise everyone to look at it again. I know that I'm going to look at that documentary again. And so the history of the United States has been one of foul play. That's what the Church Committee reports were all about. And the Church Committee reports, which are available online, so people can look up Senator Frank Church, and they can look and read those documents. And there is where we learned about Murder Incorporated and the attempts against the life of Fidel Castro, for example. We also know that the United States was supportive of the assassination of Patrice Lumumba. And so this is not something that is out of the realm. We just need to look at the history of our own country and then listen to what the Venezuelans are saying and do the best due diligence that we can do in order to try and get to the bottom of it. I'm sure that the government of Venezuela is going to pull out all of the stops in order to make sure that the life of Hugo Chavez is remembered, and that his death is also chronicled in a way that will accurately reflect history. We know, for example, about Yasser Arafat, that when he died, it was, the world lamented his death, and it was only because certain garments were kept that had his body fluids on it that could be tested, and then they found out that he had been poisoned with polonium. Mm. So now we don't know who did it, but we know it was murder. It wasn't death by natural causes. So this kind of an investigation will be done. I do trust that the Venezuelans will conduct the investigation, and the world will await their verdict.
Anyway, thank you so much. And one more question I'd like to ask you is, you talk about preserving the story or the history or the legacy of Chavez. I'd like to get your take on, like, the media, the Western media interpretation of Chavez's legacy, because what I'm getting from the media, it seems like they say one hand he's a great charismatic leader, but on the other hand he was a poor manager of democracy, like the economics, the hyperinflation, and all that stuff. But how do you feel about the Western coverage of Chavez and his legacy?
Well, they lie. I mean, just put it in 2 words. They lie. So I wouldn't even look at them. I wouldn't even listen to them. If you want to see a disinformation campaign in action, then, yeah, you can listen to that and take notes so that you'll be able to chronicle all of the lies. But once you go back and look at The Revolution Will Not Be Televised, you will see that every one of the lies that was told by CNN and other U.S. media was dissected by that Irish journalist team and, put to bed, because it was very clear with the work that the Irish team did, they just happened to be there, that the media in the U.S. were lying. Even when it came down to, in the incitement of violence on the part of the people who were backed by the U.S., they committed acts of violence and then blamed it on the supporters of Chavez. But the cameras were there from the Irish journalists who were able to capture exactly where the shots came from and who was firing the shots. And then it became very clear that the media were lying, and the forces that were that were being backed by the U.S. were lying.
Cynthia McKinney, you ever met Chavez? Did you ever meet Hugo Chavez at all, by any chance?
Yes, I did, actually. I went down there after the coup attempt. He had a meeting to put together a network of networks so that there would be more eyes on what was going on, and the kidnapping and the attempted coup, that sort of thing would not be allowed to happen again, at least without a whole lot of mobilization around the world. And he just happened to have I used to have what's called District Day. I would go into various parts of my district. I'd send out postcards and say, okay, I'm going to be in your neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And then I would stay there, all day, however long it took, till all of the constituents who had issues with the federal government or even, local and state government, I would try and resolve their issues or take their problems in. and assign it to staff so that they could work on it later. Well, he was having a district day. Here is the president of Venezuela, president of a country, is having a district day. And so I just took a walk to the big building where he was having his district day, and I stayed there. I stayed there until the last Venezuelan was seen by the president and his staff. Wow. Do you know what time the last Venezuelan was seen?
No, ma'am.
1 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, wow.
President Chavez stayed all day and all night until the last Venezuelan was seen at 1 o'clock in the morning. Now, when was the last time our president did a district day so that the American people could sit with him and have their issues resolved?
He'll do a Google Plus chat. He will do a district day all day. That's a damning indictment. I mean, but even Chavez, I mean, it's interesting on President Obama watch, that he had two major controversial world leaders, Gaddafi and now Hugo Chavez, down his watch. Folks who have been vilified by the Western media, who seem to have a strong support base within their country, or did. I mean, I know they're saying that the political climate in Venezuela is kind of shifting, so to speak. But I'm glad that you was able to tell me that story. I mean, like, was he charismatic? I mean, what was your take of him?
Absolutely charismatic.
Okay.
Totally, absolutely loved by the people. Look, under Chavez, more people got heating oil assistance in the United States. I mean, they look forward to receiving the heating oil from Venezuela. Mm. And what is our president now saying? He's going to cut Social Security? Mm. So on the one hand, the U.S. president says he's going to cut Social Security, and the vilified president of Venezuela provides heating oil to the same U.S. citizens.
So he's like a real American hero, but it also is like it speaks to the fact that Obama's not really a socialist. I mean, if he was Hugo Chavez, if he was a quarter of a socialist that Hugo Chavez was, I can see how they could be so mad on the right, but he's not a socialist at all.
Well, you know, sometimes even the darn right just make up stuff because they, because they have to play like they're the opposition when in fact they are the loyal opposition, you know. Mm-hmm. And then what they end up doing is confusing the innocent people who really are trying to understand what's happening. That they end up getting confused, but the other folk, they know exactly what they're doing and what's going on.
Well, Cynthia McKinney, I want to thank you so much. I'm sorry for taking up so much of your time. I wasn't expecting. I promised you 10 minutes. I promised you I asked you one more question. I think I asked you about 2 or 3 more questions. I'm sorry about that. I just want to wish you safe travels. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right.